For centuries, we've all been obsessed with a single name, but the scripture that tells this incredible story, it never actually mentions it. All we get is the title that came to define absolute power and tyranny, Pharaoh. But you know what? The real story, the most mind-bending part, isn't his name. It's the impossible fate of his body.
People have argued for generations about who he was, trying to put a name to the face. But the real challenge here isn't some historical whodunit. Nope. It's a full-blown scientific and forensic puzzle that he left behind at the bottom of the sea.
So, we're going to approach this from a totally different angle. Let's forget the traditional story for a minute. We are treating this event like a crime scene, a forensic investigation. The question that matters isn't who was he, it's how on earth did his body survive an event that should have been unsurvivable. To really understand the miracle, you first have to understand this science. We need to look at this scene through the cold, hard lens of physics and biomechanics.
Okay, so the term used in the original text is the Colossal Wave. But let me tell you, calling this a wave is a massive understatement. What you need to picture is two solid walls of water, each weighing millions of tons, collapsing on each other with the force of concrete. This wasn't just water. It was a cataclysmic, pulverizing machine.
Now, physics dictates three things that are pretty much guaranteed in a scenario like this. First, mechanical crushing. That kind of impact force would pulverize bone and shred tissue. Second, hydraulic pressure. The sheer weight of the water instantly crushes a human frame into fragments. And third, biological decay. Anything left over would be eaten by marine life or would just decompose in hours. These aren't just theories, these are laws of nature.
So the bottom line is, science is not fuzzy on this. According to every known law of physics and biology, the Pharaoh's body shouldn't have just been lost at sea. It should have been completely, utterly obliterated. Wiped from existence. Case closed, right?
Well, it wasn't. The case was not closed. And this is where our forensic investigation takes a wild turn. Away from what science says must happen to the impossible anomaly that actually did.
In the face of that absolute physical certainty, a divine decree was made. A promise that doesn't just challenge the laws we just talked about, it basically declares them irrelevant. A promise to preserve this body for a very specific reason, so it could become a sign.
And check this out. This shows you just how precise this whole thing was. The text doesn't just say body. It uses the specific Arabic word Badan, that's B-A-D-A-N. This word refers to the physical, anatomical, organic frame, the strong structure itself. It's not the more common word Jasad, which just means any old corpse. The decree was to save the very anatomical form that physics said had to be destroyed.
So what happened next wasn't some freak accident or a 1 in a billion coincidence. All the evidence points to a deliberate and systematic suspension of the laws of nature themselves.
Let's just break down the forensic evidence here, step by step. The law of mechanical crushing? Suspended. The body was left intact. The law of sinking, of gravity pulling a body down to the abyss? Reversed. And the biological laws of predators and decay? Totally halted. Every single physical rule that would have prevented preservation was just switched off.
Can you just imagine that scene, right in the middle of all that underwater chaos, with destruction everywhere? The Pharaoh's body wasn't just protected, it actually started to float gently upwards, completely defying the physics of the disaster happening all around it.
But why? You have to ask, why go through all this trouble to overrule the laws of the universe for just one body? Well, the purpose was stated very clearly, to create a physical proof, a sign that could last for thousands of years as a message for everyone who came later.
So today, we will save you and your body, that you may be to those who succeed you a sign. I mean, this is really the climax of our whole investigation, the promise and the purpose, laid out right there. This was never just about saving a body. It was about curating a permanent physical artifact for future generations to see with their own eyes.
And the final step in this whole incredible process was the delivery. The body was cast ashore, and not as some unrecognizable mess, but in a state that was so anatomically sound that the ancient Egyptians could perform their mummification rituals. This final act completed the chain of preservation, turning a tyrant into a timeless object lesson for history.
When you really look at all the forensic evidence, the suspension of physics, the precise delivery, the final result, the conclusion is pretty stark. This was not a natural coincidence. The sources for our explainer here, Call it a material signature of the creator, a deliberate, authored event designed to leave a physical mark that would literally defy time itself.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought. We live in an age that really trusts science to explain everything, right? But here, we have a case where the key to a modern forensic puzzle, the survival of this impossible body, might just be found in the stunning precision of a single word, chosen over 1,400 years ago.
You know, the incredible research and vision for this deep dive into history, language, and physics comes to us from Mohamed Hasan. It's just a truly fascinating way to re-examine a story we all thought we knew so well.